Okay, yep, I can hear my voice. Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Blender stream. I updated the sprite. I need to rig it and whatnot, but yeah, yay. Helmetless version. Yay. Anyway, yeah, so today we're gonna be doing some work on the ratio apartment. Whoops, that was the wrong thing to do. Anyway, yeah, so the ratio apartment, we're going to be, oh, no, undo. Anyway, we're going to be doing, more of what I've been doing off stream, which is, see these little planes here? They rise and lower with the water. Well, I've already done everything I need to do, basically, with those, I think. Yeah, crabby. And then we got the cliffs updated, some rocks updated. Yeah, so the thing we're going to be doing today is adding, some caustic trim along the edges of the cliffs here. And also one other thing. I'm going to come along down here. We're going to switch to solid. And I'm just going to select this item. Yep. I'm going to create a cylinder. I'm just gonna do that. Yep. You'll be thinking, what is the point of a cylinder for? Well, basically, I realized we have an issue with, well, we have an issue with, basically, water input. So, like down here, there's going to be current that's coming along. Anyway, so I'm just going to roughly grab some of these faces here. We're going to stretch them out a bit. I'm going to grab a few more. We're going to stretch them out just a bit more. Give this a bit more of a wild crystalline shape. And then we're going to come along in here. Tab. Material. Okay, so, and we're just going to select those. Bump. New, unwrap, and now we're just gonna select. And I seriously don't expect nope. I seriously don't expect anyone to actually see this down here, but it's the visual effect of it. I mean, the idea here is just that the water flows out through here at some point. And yeah. Basically, that's all it is just to make it seem like this is an outlet for water to flow through from another side of the place. Why? Well, why not? Nope. What I need to do now. And we're just gonna assign that to give it a little bit of a blank space. Again, I seriously don't expect anybody to be down here, but it's just shadow to imply distance. Because I'm not punching a hole in this wall. No, I'm not. That's too much work. So this will suffice as our little oh, hey, there's something that you can see down there at the lowest time of day. That's where water is going to be outletting from. I probably need to animate some water flowing out of it, actually, to sell the effect. Yeah, actually, that's probably a good idea. I'm just gonna come over here. Let's see here. I'm just gonna duplicate that by selection. And then I'm just gonna remove a collision. That doesn't need collision. What? That whole waterfall has collision. Weird. Anyway, we're just gonna come along here. And even though I don't expect anyone will actually see this, I'm gonna separate this off to its own little texture here, so that way I can make sure it's light group, exterior, but just for cliffs. Okay. Let's get that just lovely lined up right. Yeah, I guess I don't expect this to actually be seen, but I want it to just be modeled at the very least. Just because yeah, that'll do. That'll do. And then UV map. Yep. Wrap. There. That'll do. It's more the case of nobody is really going to see that. So yeah. Anyway, so just gonna yep, look at that. Yep. Gets consumed. Okay. Let's get this at its highest point here. So then, right, I'm thinking I need to go check out the Ashba's Garden for a specific texture setup because I do not remember how I do this off the top of my head. Ashba's Garden is open in the background. You're probably not seeing it on stream, but that's fine. I just need to look at an object. Ooh, wait, hold on. Yeah, there we go. Okay, material. It's going in the X direction. Okay, and then what was this one doing? You're a churn. Okay, that's using a different texture entirely. Okay. Okay, I know what textures I need to use now. So, I'm going to come along here. I'm going to take this object. And the reason I'm taking this object first is so I can duplicate that and set that off to its own object. Then this is going to have its new texture. This is going to be ripple wake edge. Yeah, that'll do. For the moment, I'm going to set it to shadeless. Textures in here are going to be set to their own texture numbers. And then we're going to go to our concept visit, textures, G. I'm going to find, okay, so there's a couple different layers here that I'm going to be using. One of them is going to be the anime caustic, rather the anime vortex white alpha that I'm already using, and then I'm going to use the Gira waterfall churn, and then there's Gira waterfall froth. I want to use churn specifically, but let's disable that for the moment, the wake map. Need to set this to fade. Unwrap. There we go. Yeah, and there we go. See, this is the fade texture we want here. And we want the fade to be on the outside edge. Yeah. Object, transform, origin to geometry. So the reason I want this at a specific height because that I've already done the work to figure out where the height is for this relative to the top of the water geometry. And as long as I don't screw that up, everything should be fine. I'm going to worry about the actual ripple direction later. Fade. I'm going to set this to its own fade texture. I can... Where's the brightness? Anyway, that doesn't matter. Because we're going to be doing stretchies across this thing along the perimeter of this. And assuming that I've done everything correctly, what then is going to happen is, having the fade on the outside edge, we're going to have ripples of water pulling away from the thing. But we're also going... So that's going to work in one direction. And then I'm going to have another layer underneath the churn layer. I'm going to have the Gira churn layer going in the opposite direction to the flow of the water. So that way it looks like we have water wrapping up against the rock and then bouncing away from it. And in the meantime, we're just going to use the X and Y axis arrows to move this along so everything stays at the same height. Because if we just willy-nilly move it about, we might have it start clipping, and I ran into that issue in Neighbory, where I did not keep things level, and let me tell you, that's always a pain to clean up afterwards. But yeah, water caustics. Theoretically, I could use the anime caustic reflection texture along the edges of this, but that's potentially going to also have to go up and down, and yeah, I don't know if that's gonna be looking good when this thing animates up and down the cliffside. As it is, I'm gonna play things a little safe once I finish meshing out the perimeter of this, and I'm going to take the inside edge and I'm going to pull it inwards by a bit, depending on where at its lowest it's depending, so that way it keeps consistent and looks like it's not well, it'll look like it's actually lapping against the edge of it, because see, if I just leave it like that, there's going to be a gap there, and the gap is going to look kind of obvious. And trust me, nobody wants an obvious gap in their texture where it meets the wall. But yeah, everything is already parented to the raise and lower animation parent empty. And that is this thing right here. And so basically, as long as I leave that where it is, everything should still be in alignment and move at the same rate. The best part about keeping this width consistent is that no matter how far I stretch a specific texture width-wise or length-wise, the horizontal doesn't matter, it's the vertical. In this case, as long as I keep the Y dimensions perfect, and I can mess with the X, and because the Y dimension will still all be going in the exact same direction, which is towards the outside edge, or at least that's the way I want it to do it. And then here comes this thing, this bit right here, which is where I need to check my pass index again. You are set to 5, you are set to 4. Okay, come along to here. Ooh, look at that. I've got 2 layers here. I've got 4. I've got 5. So what I'm going to need to do for this is set this to... I'm going to play things safe. I'm going to set this to 10. And then... and you start to see where it's starting to Z-fight there. I'm just going to lift it up. If I pull it out again, horizontally, yep. Let me just make sure there we go. And so this is going to technically churn over top of this, which is its own animated texture and blend pass and whatnot. Theoretically, I don't actually need to cover the walls here where the churn is, but I'm going to do it anyways, just because, well, to be frank, I'm just going to be a little pedantic about this specific area. I'm doing the edge around specific areas, and I just want those areas to be consistent. Regardless of if I do it around other areas, I want the specific furthest edges, the outside perimeter edge of this map to have the ripples on it, like this. See, we're going to come up in here to a really tight corner very soon. And that is going to give us a little bit of tricky room to work with, but rather than resizing things to fit, I'm just going to tuck things behind the cliff face here. Just a smidge. Just like that. I'm going to pull out like that. To extrude again, like so. Pull it out. And then voila! We have made a turn around a corner. Look at that. We've made a perfect little turn around the corner there. Lovely. I'm going to save some polygon vertices by stretching out here where I can, where it's just going to be a nice long stretch of terrain. And then because this bit here is a little further, I'm just going to pull this out like that. Yeah, that'll do the trick. And although this is going to be animated, this is a very similar trick to what is being done on the fog fade stuff here. Or not the fog, the moss fade around the edges. The moss just sort of fades. Okay. Now here's where I'm gonna play things safe a bit. I'm just gonna select this face by selection. Yay! There we go. And I'm going to leave the orbit point where the same, just because. But yeah, Plasma has an inbuilt vertex limit to some degree. I don't remember the exact number, but I know that if I make this whole big, long, intercircular mesh go around in a circle like I think it is going to, then it's going to probably exceed that limit very quickly, so. And here's where I'm going to have to do that. Yeah, there we go. Also, another thing to consider is I have another light source here. And I'm thinking I'm going to have to do to the water what I did to the cliffs here, and that's join it to the same light group. Oh boy, this is going to be interesting. What is that? That's a 2. This is a 4. Oh, or this is a 10. So that's fine. That's fine. This is going to be fine. This'll be just fine. This'll be fine. No problems here. No siree. Yoink. That'll probably cause me some clipping issues, but I'm going to live with it for the moment. Now you might be thinking, hey, Harley, didn't you just build a big old thing down here that's gonna interrupt this shape? Yes, I did. That's important to remember. Because we're gonna have to do something sort of stupid with that one, comparatively to the others. But yeah, we will get to that. We will get to that when the time comes. For the moment, I am just gonna play this by ear. Let's take that a bit more like that. Yep. Because I'm just gonna take this step by step, honestly, because unlike shadows, which are annoying little things that you have to manually curate over and over and over and over and over again, the way that I design these cliffs is so that they are very smooth where the water is going up and down against them constantly. And they're kind of a little unnecessarily smooth above that in some places, as I was recently told, but I agree with them on that. But there are some places where that is just how it is going to be, because that was how the cliffs were designed. And yeah, see, like right here, we have this big old rock, and we have this tiny little narrow gap. This current's going between that gap, so it doesn't care about the rock. But you look at the rock here, you'll see it goes fairly straight down. That's just supposed to be the erosion at work. Let's see. Also, I apologize if my throat sounds dry and I cough a bit. The weather outside has been very frightfully cold, and my throat protests a lot in cold weather. So here's another thing. It's these crystals here. You might be thinking, oh, we're gonna bounce around the edges here, right? Yes and no. You'll see what we're gonna do when we get there. See, here's another with those Z fighting issues here. So I'm gonna take this. I'm gonna do that. I'm going to pull it forwards. And then I'm just gonna link it up. Okay. Wrong arrow. Wrong arrow. There we go. Okay. So yeah, this big old crystal wall here is toggleable, and it's part of a collectible item. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to end up creating 2 sets of this. One set to show when the cliff is not present, and one where it is present. Before we do any of that, I'm going to actually jump into the age so that y'all can see what I'm talking about with these water caustics and what they might hopefully look like. Again, we're just kind of freewheeling this. But yeah, I spent basically all of Wednesday working on working on a bunch of rocks and the moss on them and roughing them up and reshaping them, and well, worth the work. I probably should have done it sooner, but sometimes you lose sight of the things you should be doing for a project because you just don't know what you need to be doing. You've been working on it so much. You need an outsider's perspective to tell you, hey, this looks stupid, you need to do something about it. Phrased more politely or less politely, depending on the context and project. Not just with Uru. I'm talking about anything in general, really. But yeah, sometimes you just need somebody to say, why is this like this? Because you just have lost sight of it, you know? Other things that have changed in the apartment, since you guys have last seen it. I did finish the crab model. We'll go in and we'll look at that, later. It's a work in progress. It's textured, it's modeled, it just needs a lot of animation work. Other things, we've changed direction a bit on this bookshelf. We now have books that will show up when you collect certain items, and then this will no longer be a bookshelf for any private fan ages that get added to the Chiso bookshelf, but rather it's going to be an expanded bookshelf because you see the 3 Neighbory books there? We cannot do multiple pages in one book, so we have to have 3 Neighbory books to do 3 different lengths. So you can take a guess that I've planned out where all of those are going to go. Also, we've added a... Oh, this looks very bright for some reason. It's still a work in progress, lighting-wise, but it's the shadow of the thing sticking out there. There you go. Right. I cannot tell what direction that is moving in. And I think it's moving... Yep, it's moving in the wrong direction. Or at least it's moving in the wrong... Actually, no, it's not moving in the wrong direction. Yeah, see right there where the edges is not meeting? It's because the glyph is narrowing in, and I need to extend that. That's fine, that's fine. Okay. I'm gonna pull up here. You can't really see them too well, except for these ones lit by crystal stuff. I'm going to net force. Time of day 0.0. Woohoo! Now we can see our caustics against the water. We'll see here that yeah, look, the ripples are going over the stuff. Yay! It's going over the stuff and not eating through it. But yeah, anyway, rock faces, crab is not visible at the moment on my exports because I have it disabled because I need to do more work on it, but look at that. The stuff raises and lowers with the time of day. That is all the animation stuff that we need to do. Right then. Alright, so, first things first, I'm going to start doing the inner edge. So I'm going to extrude this. P selection. And then I'm going to rename this one. This is Fence Island. Fence Aw. And the reason I'm calling it Fence Island Fence is I'm going to add the fence modifier to it. This is wake. This is edge. Alright. So yeah, we're going to do the inside edge of this. We won't have to do too much of this because anyway. Anyways, point is, because I've made that split now, and onto this. Yeah, I'm just going to leave that for the moment. I'm going to go back to this object. I'm going to come along to this edge again. And now, I'm going to extrude it out again. You'll notice it's Z-fighting, but that is fine. Because this is going around in a different direction. And more to the point, boop, boop. This is going to be off to its own selection again. So we've got this bit, we've got this bit, and then we got this bit. And this is going to be fence island, island. This is going to be advanced, bridge, show hide. And the reason I have that is the fence modifier is for the part of the fence that disappears when this variable is turned on. And so that bit of water that goes under the crystals is going to turn off when the bridges turn on. Which is absolutely fine. And the best part is, because this isn't going to connect to anything else on this side, I can just sort of have both of them, once they wrap around to this side, just continue on and they can be separate meshes and look a little different. Because the churning of the current is different, because there's a big giant crystal in the way. Yeah. Clever, huh? Clever, ain't it? But yeah, like, these wakes around some of these crystal islands are set up in the same way that they will just vanish. And on this one, object, transform, set origin to geometry. I'm going to end up doing that for the other one of this, but it doesn't matter for the moment. This, rotate it just a smidge, pull this, yoink, yoink, there we go. And then, because this has such a big sudden jackknife of a turn, this also is going to have a big sudden jackknife turn. Pull that out, rotate it like so, and voila. Gonna look a little weird, but we will live with it. Because we are fine with living with weirdness. Water often doesn't do the things that you think it'll do. Especially around big giant crystals that appear out of nowhere. Yeah, see, we're just gonna do this to extrude it. And to rotate by the z-axis. There we go. And then I'm just gonna extrude it the once to save on vertices. And there. Actually, I'm just gonna pull it in a bit more, like so. And then we're going to come along here. I'm going to select all of these faces here. I'm just going to extrude. Extrude out just like that. I'm going to pull them in just a bit more, though. There we go. So what texture is our wake set to? Set to UV map 01. So I'm going to hit this. And then I'm going to hit unwrap. And then I'm just going to stretch it out like that. I'm going to go back to my UV map. I'm going to select all of this, and I'm going to just stretch it in by the x-axis there just a bit. There we go. Now I've got a perfect little blurred edge there. Now comes this one. And I'm going to shrink the x-axis in just a smidge. UV map. I'm going to take this. I'm going to hit unwrap. Nope. Smart UV project. Nope. Oh, I'm going to have to do this the hard way. Bye. You reset. And you know what? That's fine. This will be fine. I may have to do some blending there with another fade layer, but we will work with it. We'll work with it. Tab. Shrink that in slightly. Okay. So now we're going to come along and finish along this cliff edge with this texture. Boop. I'm going to set UV map 1 because that's where things are going to be later. Look how close those are getting. Yay! Doesn't matter if they overlap any because, again, they are going to go bye-bye when things are done differently. So, just going to stretch this out. Pull this to about there. And we're just going to do what we did over here. And that's... Whoop. I'm just going to extrude that. A-U. Smart UV project. Oops, see, that's not the right direction. Let's do that. Stretch it like that. There we go. And that's not going to match up perfectly. I'm going to have to do some blending there. But some is better than... Let's see, that's the price we're going to pay for complexity. That's the price we're going to pay for complexity. And I'm going to slightly stretch in the x-axis here. Go down to the UV map here. And to do unwrap, I'm going to scale it up and out. And now, for the moment, I'm going to turn off the shadeless bit. I'm going to save and export the age to take a look at how this looks in game. So yeah, we're just gonna be... I'm probably gonna cut this stream off soon because my throat's starting to bug me, and I was planning on doing a shorter stream today, but point is that, the water will do some fancy shenanigans. Actually, no, I still need to add something. The gear return. I need to add the gear return in the opposite direction. Then I'll call it a day. For the stream, at least. Oh boy, the flow direction on that is not consistent at all. Jeez. Is that... I think it might have clipped under the rock. At 4.0. Yeah, that's being weird. I might have to redo that particular animation. For that specific texture, at least. Then again, that does... It's a little weird. It's wonky, it's weird. I'm gonna have to play around with it. Change set, steel pool. Fence, island, viz, true, 0. See, that looks a whole lot better. Look at how that water froths up right here around this island. I love that. That's really nice. Yeah. But yeah, where this waterfall meets the water, I'm gonna have to do a model for churning, misty bits that'll froth up right where the water meets. Yeah, looky. There's no internal thing here. That means our SDL setup works. But yeah, I think I'm gonna just start off by, I like how this specific bit flows around versus some of the other bits. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna reset that particular layer set for all of these. Tab. You reset. Actually, if I play my cards right, reset. If I've played my cards right, yeah. If I play my cards right here, reset. Boom, boom. Okay. If I play my cards right, then that will cover up our... Yeah, look at that. Boop, 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 boop. That should blend perfectly. Okay, I think that'll work. But before I forget, come along in here. New Gira churn. Open PNGs to load. And we're looking for Gira. Looking for Gira waterfall churn 1. I'm going to make sure all of these settings are applied. So this is... okay. I'm going to turn that down to 50 opacity. I don't think this texture has alpha on it. RGB to intensity, nope, nope, nope. And I'm going to add a new UV map to these objects. I'm going to add, add, add. And then before I animate, I want to make sure that that texture actually applied. We're going to test the age again. Or at least applies in a way that I want it to apply. Jumping into Uru, jumping into Uru, jumping into Uru. I see a static churn layer under there. One slight rotational difference, but it otherwise works. Yeah, I'm gonna have to mess with the UV mapping, because that's all flipped around willy-nilly. Look at that. I probably just need to set that particular texture to be hard to be lit up. Yeah, I'm not really seeing it from up here. Nope. 6, 2, 6, 1, 9, 58, 57. Okay. I can kind of see it flowing down there. Cool. Okay. But yeah, I'm gonna need to add like a specific bit of churn right there where it lands. Anyways, yeah, so yeah, okay. So let's use this texture as an example. We're gonna come to our bit down here. So we're gonna gear a churn. I'm gonna set this to that. So our wake animation travels by the X and Y axis, but I'm just only going to do the Y axis to make things easier on ourselves. So I'm going to set this to -1, -5, 0.05. Okay. I'm going to set this back to non-shaded. We're going to come over here real quick, and we're going to... We're just going to project set to bounds, and I'm just going to select this so I know where my vertex points are. Yoink. Aha, there you are. Yoink. Yeah. That should do the trick for that one. Now, where's the troublemaker? Here's the troublemaker. You're the one having trouble lining up, right? So I'm going to assume all of these inward ones Not even rotating the right layer. There we go. I'm just gonna pull that a bit out. Give that a little more room to breathe. Okay. That'll... And I gotta come back here and fix this bit because I also need to do it for this layer. Project from view, boom. Okay. Sure, everything is lined up. There we go. Okay. I'm going to turn off shadeless again just so I can get a look at all of it in the right lighting. Exporting takes the most time out of everything. It really does. Yeah, after this I'm gonna call it for the stream. Oh, well, I'll show you the crab, but then I'll call it for the stream. I'm not even gonna bother with the door this time. What I really like is how the churn sort of fades into the dark. And now that's going in the wrong direction. And so's that. But it does look like the churn is going in the right direction, at least mostly. I'm gonna have to set that glow texture to a higher blend pass, aren't I? Yeah, that's exactly what I'm gonna have to do. Okay. Anyway, I'll sort out the directionality of this all off screen. Although, yeah, that looks a little weird. but you're not supposed to be able to really see it. I really like how that all just sort of blends together. Oh, it's really nice. Anyway, yeah, so, yeah, I will see you all next time, I guess. Oh, wait, no. I'm showing you the crab. I'm gonna show you the giant crab. Yeah, I gotta show you the crab. Here he is. Here's the big boy. Here's the big crab. Let me put him into shadeless mode so you can actually see what he looks like here. Oop. Big crab. Oh. Yeah. This thing is using a recolor of Shroomi's texture, so it's a Shroomy face. Sort of. Looks a bit like a turtle. And a crab. And a lobster. He's a big boy. No, they're a very, very, very big boy. Crab! It's a big giant crab. So yeah, at some point in his animation cycle, he goes into the water, and I'm going to have to, do a wake thing, too, but I'm going to wait until after I finish the entire animation to, the entire whole loop cycle. Like he's gonna have to have a wake that overlaps this wake and it goes that way, and it's gonna have to stretch and include the tail, and yeah. Oh, look at that face. Look at that face. I love that face. That's a cute face. Anyway, yeah, I'm gonna call it there. Thank you for watching, everyone. Have a good night. I will see you all next time. Bye.